Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a good week. I'm going to talk about a lesson that I did about a week ago with my students on central message or a theme. And I'm just going to go through my PowerPoint first so you just have a basic understanding, and then I'll kind of look at how does it measure up, where the strengths are, where are the things I would need to change um, in order to meet the criteria. So over here you can see my lesson on central message. So I start my lessons with an essential question um, where my students could tell what we would be learning. Um, as I go through my lesson, you can tell that I did use the outline view that is noted in the accessible PowerPoint um, information. And then I do go with a little bit of review. What is the central message or theme? And my students were able to, before this came up, turn and talk and with their partner just to kind of draw on that prior knowledge because this lesson built upon itself. So there was previous lessons that we worked on themes. So just kind of keeping the momentum going. And then I start by reading the text. But before reading the text, I introduce, characters, and I had my students, turn and talk. Who is the main character? Why? And they had to provide evidence to support. And I provide my students with organizers in the lesson so that then they were able to keep track of the story. My students also had their iPads with them. So this was shared, the PowerPoint was shared with them, and they were able to go right along with me and, have that text right in front of them. They had a paper copy of the organizer that they could fill out. So then we started by reading the story and asking the question, what is the setting and how do you know? So they turned to their partners and they had to share their evidence to support how do they know what the setting was. And then, I just started reading. And as we're reading the story, we'd go through, take time to turn and talk and develop, find the quotes that they needed, find the actions, what did the character learn, all those pieces. I then chose to put the text in red, so when they didn't write it down, it was visible to them. It really drew their attention to what I was asking them to put on their paper. And then we just continued through the lesson reading about Jeremy and him wanting those shoes, and we talked about how the character changed throughout the story, and they had to turn and talk to their partners a lot to try to pull the evidence. They had the text, like I said, right in front of them, so they were able to look back into the text and really find those pieces of evidence that I was looking for, and just kind of go through. So I just kept reading. We'd turn and talk occasionally as we read the text, and then they would fill out their organizer. And you can see I changed the color just to help support the students when copying notes. And then at the very end, we were working on determining the central message. So after we had our table filled out in our organizer, then they had to move into really identifying the central message and providing the evidence directly from the text. And then I wrapped the lesson up by using an exit slip. So the exit slip allowed me to assess my students to see where they're at. The nice part about using the exit slip is it was online through Seesaw, so I was able to record the story for the students who needed that additional support. And then once they answered it, they could type their answer. They could use the pen feature to put their answer. So there's different tools that they can use to submit it. And then I was able to provide feedback to them on their progress on this skill. So when looking at how to make it accessible, I did use the outline view. I did use the slide layout. I just, inserted new slides like a blank template. Talking about order, did I have any like assistive technology to help go through it, the order? And I guess the numbers are there, but other than that, I really didn't feel like I provided any additional supports to help them kind of go through or go through the text. Images, clip arts. I used the pictures directly from the text. I didn't explain what was happening in the picture or anything like that. I just pulled it from the book. Lists, like thinking about how I could change this maybe at the beginning of the PowerPoint, providing, okay, this is what we're going to be doing today, and having that kind of checklist or bullet list of these are the steps and where we're kind of heading. Um, then when you look at links, talking about different things, meaningful links that describe its destination. Did I have anything where it was a right click hyperlink? That was their seesaw, their exit slip. They were able to click right on the picture of the seesaw, and it took them into their seesaw accounts where they were able to answer that exit slip. The table, I I put it into the organizer, but did I have an additional table in the PowerPoint? No, it was in their organizer, but the table did allow them to organize their thinking. Uh, and then color, I did use, I feel like a good color for contrast, where it was just a blank color and then the black text. So it just kind of helped you visually be able to see it. There wasn't anything that was really distracting or taking away from that. And then the math and science, the video and audio. In my seesaw, there was the audio when they would log into the exit slip, like I said, but in the PowerPoint itself, that's something that was um, I guess, lacking. And then when I move on to the universal design for learning principles, when I think about principle one, providing multiple means of representation, use text, video, audio, video representation. Some of the areas where I felt I met looking at Rice's table was like highlighting the key elements. What will we be learning? What's important? Um, the pre-teaching, the prior knowledge. So having that slide where we, turned and talked, and students were able to share out what they know about central message, providing multiple examples and non-examples of highlighting learning. I feel like I did a better job at providing the multiple examples, not the non-examples. Outlines and organizers for key ideas. I did have their graphic organizer where they were able to keep track of the information that we were reading. In the seesaw, exit slip is where they were able to have that, multiple entry points. I do feel like I did chunk the information using it through the PowerPoint, or we would read a few pages, we'd stop, we'd fill out the organizer, opposed to just reading the story and then be like, here you go, let's fill this organizer out. Provide multiple means of expressing and understanding, allow the use of text, audio, video, actions as means for students to express understanding, multiple ways of interacting, hand, keyboard, and voice. Throughout the PowerPoint, they were able to use, they were using their hand to do their writing, and they were also using their voice when they were turning and talking. In the seesaw exit slip, they had the opportunities to compose text. They could use their speech, and it would, through dictation, would write it for them. Um, have that spell check, that grammar. Um, I did have the sentence starters, the central message, or I determined the central message to be, and the evidence, using different models for the same result. So my students, what I had for my different learners, the organizers, some of them were filled out, some of them they had just a blank one. A couple of students had where they had a word bank that they just had to fill in the word bank. Multiple means of engagement. Students are motivated and engaged differently. So looking at the table, did I personalize the learning to the students' lives and interests? I feel like the story I chose was high interest because it's something that they could deal with. Wanting those new pairs of shoes and not being able, or thinking everybody else had it. Um, and the story is a valuable lesson for really everybody to learn. Um, Provide authentic, purposeful outcomes. So it was something that was real, something that they could deal with. It encouraged active participation, having that constant turn and talk. Okay, let's fill this out. Provide a great opportunity for collaboration. When I set up my classroom, I do a peer. I do have it so my students are grouped by ability or different abilities. So then I have that peer tutoring or the support. When thinking about the, tier one, tier two, tier three, I do think I provided some accommodations for my students who were at my tier two instruction and my tier one instruction. Yes, this wouldn't be the most ideal online lesson. I feel like it has some starting points that I could tweak to really make it a better lesson for an online learner. Um, and that's really it in a nutshell. Thank you.